Okay. So welcome everybody to the Pulse. This is going to be a showcase. And I was just saying before we clicked record, we're going to start with having a moment to be in connection with each other and take a few breaths together. Thank you all for being here. I'm really um, grateful to have the chance to share what I've been working on with y'all and to get your perspectives and feedback and impact. Um, I'll share a little bit about my come from in terms of building the Pulse. I imagine this is true for you all. Sometimes I know for me, sometimes I feel like I just have too many people to keep up with. There's just too many people I love in the world. And some folks even if I talk to them every week, I still don't know how they're doing on a daily basis kind of thing, how they're really doing. And some folks I only talk to once a year or once every couple of years. So I was wondering if there was a way that there could be a platform. Welcome, Taj. I'm wondering if it would be possible to have a platform to keep a pulse on our communities and on our loved ones and on the world, and to know how people are doing. And beyond that, um, to start to match make resources with places that need resourcing, and people who are in need of support with supporters and with support. And even beyond that, bring people's gifts out into the world in connection with each other. So yeah, I'm really excited to show you what I put together. Before I start sharing my screen and walking you through it, I'd love to just hear from each of you. What draws you into this call? Like help me connect to what it is that has you show up to this call and be here right now.
Oh, go ahead. Um, yeah, I know from our conversations, uh, you know, the, um, between you and me, Forrest, yeah, you strike me as really creative, really kind of wide-ranging in terms of how you're thinking about things. So when I saw you working on the project, I'm like, sure, yeah, curious to see kind of the problem you're taking on and how you're putting the piece together to to kind of take this on.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm involved with a couple of online communities, and I'm always looking for ways to keep the people who are involved in touch. We three of them right now are meeting weekly, and one of them is using WhatsApp as a way of kind of connecting between meetings. But I'm not really happy with WhatsApp, the way it works. And I'm curious to know whether something like this would be useful in my online communities. And also, I have a friend that's working on something he calls Heart Pulse. So when I told him about this, he said, "Oh no, somebody's already got the idea." But his thing is actually what he does is he has people put comments up, and then they click a heart to tell whether they approve or whether they agree with the comment. So a lot of that's about decision making within communities and things like that. So I'm curious to see what your approach is with this.
Thanks, Roger. Grateful for you to be here.
Hi. I recently moved to Mexico about 5 months ago, and I feel like I'm connecting with a lot of people, but I feel like a certain type of connection is missing here that I had in Portland. And being someone who has chronic illness, I loved when everybody was stuck at home and we got to be online more, which, you know, probably pretty different from most people's experience, but there was something about that that really enriched my life. So
Hmm.
I'm looking for some of that in combination with in-person connections right now.
Thanks, Taj. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm curious what your project is, and I'm kind of like working and doing Limicon at the same time, and I work on websites and softwares, so maybe I can give some feedback if you're open to it, or if there's anything I see could like make a recommendation or something. Yeah, I'm happy to do that, but yeah, mostly just always curious about what people are working on and if it's something that like makes our lives better. One of those things would be like connecting with each other. So to put it kind of tritely, I guess, but yeah.
Thanks, Benji. Hey, Ron, welcome. It's good to have you here. I was just asking folks for a check-in. What is it that draws you here? What is it that has you come to this call today?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, first, and thank you. I'm interested just because I'm also building at the vanguard of like community tech and coordination tools. So I'm just always very interested to see what other people are thinking, how they're approaching it. So that's why I showed up. I'm presently working with Spirit DAO, so I'm excited to see what you've built and just kind of see what insights can be gained. And if it's open, I'm happy to share feedback as well.
Absolutely. I'd say that's the primary purpose that we're here, is to get y'all's feedback and perspectives and impact and these kind of things. So I'll just take a moment and share what I have so far with y'all and walk you through it for a moment, and then we'll transition to impact and feedback and things. So can y'all see this okay? Yes, no, maybe. Thumbs up if you can see it. Yeah, okay, beautiful. All right. So here's what I've been working on for the Pulse. And the basic idea is, you scroll down here to your network. The basic premise for what I want to have happen here is that you can get a felt sense for how everybody in your network is doing, essentially instantaneously, from the colors. So there's red is at the lowest, and then you have yellow, and then blue, and then green. But you could scroll through and get a sense, if I have all of you here in my network, I can just scroll through and go, okay, Earl's blue, he's a 7. Roger's green, he's an 8. Like, oh, Ron's a 3. Okay, maybe I want to reach out to Ron and connect with him, or maybe I want to reach out to Earl and connect with him. But just getting an immediate felt sense based off color and vibration, really, of how the network is doing. And then here we have our collectives. And so you can actually, the same way you would have group chats, you can add people to different collectives. So maybe I have my biological family in a group. Or maybe I have, this is my Mexico City consciousness community that I'm in on WhatsApp. Now you can see, blue vibrates a certain way, green vibrates a certain way, and if a group is red, it vibrates differently, right? So you get that felt sense non-linguistically, without language, of how people in a group are doing. And allegedly, like hypothetically, if we got 8 billion people on this platform, you could actually see how all of humanity is doing in the moment. You could get a felt sense of the state of our humanity in real time. So I think that's pretty cool. the check-in here, you can do a basic check-in, which just gives you a scale of 0 to 10. But I've also been playing with other kinds of check-ins, and I feel like this is getting ready to get recreated. But for example, I put in essentials here, which gets to kind of biological stuff. Have you gotten sunlight today? Have you had water, electrolytes, movement, sleep? Have you eaten today? Quality of the food. So there's these kinds of domains on the biological one. You can check in on your stress levels, whether you're in your comfort zone, your growth zone, or your danger zone. I'm sure you all have seen this graph before. Um, you could do a deep dive and check in on, emotional, financial, relational, and create this kind of graph here with different dimensions of well-being. Or you could just do the quick check-in. And, if you check in at a 10, for example, it'll offer you, let's see, let me refresh this. So if you check in with a 10, it says, sounds like you're in a great place, celebrating you, offers you a 3 to 5 minute practice to get more clarity and feel grounded. What's most essential right now? Do you need anything you want to share with the community? And how it relates with you is different. For example, if you check in with a 5 or a 2, right? If you check in with a 1, it's going to say, are you safe right now? And if you're not, it offers you emergency service phone numbers. So you can start to get the feeling that the platform exists to help you get what you need. If you're a 1 out of 10, you might need something different than if you're at a 9 out of 10. But the idea being there's typically always something that's supportive for you. And then here we have our asks and offers marketplace. So there's a local component to this and a remote component to this, Taj, to your point. On the local side, I like to think of this as re-evoking the neighborhood. I've talked to so many people who I give the example of, on the offers perspective, for example, it's like, hey, I'm baking 3 apple pies today and I have 2 extra. Who wants one? And the number of people who've told me they've had that exact scenario happen is pretty funny. It turns out I know a lot of people who bake apple pies. Or the asks might be like, hey, I really need a hug. And you might come on here and see that someone, 300 meters away from you needs a hug right now. And you could actually just get off the couch and walk down the street and give them a hug. So that's on a local level. Needing help gardening, needing help moving furniture. I have an extra apple pie, kind of re-evoking the neighborhood on the local side of things. And then on the remote side of things, it could be something like today, like, hey, everybody, I've been working on this platform and I want to get some feedback. Would you be open to that? Or I'm offering a 1-hour active listening session, et cetera. And the idea being, I'm sure you all have participated in gatherings that have asks and offers marketplaces, but you tend to start seeing people get their needs met, both the need to share our gifts with people and also the need to receive support and love and care from others. And so the idea being that, we could actually use this platform to create the conditions for people to experience more well-being in life. That not only can you check in and share how you're doing, but people can share gifts with each other, receive support. You can see here in the connection section who in your community is marked available to connect right now. So bringing people together, getting away from the ways that we conceptualize our experience in some ways, like instead of I'm feeling anxious and sad and grief, and here's the story behind it, and kind of getting away from that, getting a little bit more into colors and vibrations and something beyond that, in a way. Yeah. And you can see up here, there's tools and practices. I've got another version of this with some, like, there's an intelligence tab that I could show you all where you can start to get some insights from data that's happening on the platform and from your own well-being evolutionary journey. But I'm just going to pause here and come to the group and check in and see what's happening for you all.
I really like how there's other modalities of experience represented with the colors and things. I was thinking that when there's that more elaborate check-in, it would be great to ask things like, have you played today? Have you had a moment or more of mindfulness? Self-soothing, things like that. But play is a big one for me.
Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful. I totally agree. Yep, absolutely.
Are you quantifying the well-being based directly on the inputs? So like every input has a numerical correlation and that's how you're distributing like the well-being? And um, how do you like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like grapple with the difference that like my 4, let's say out of 5 might be different than Benji's 4, right? His 4 might be a 4.5 and mine might be a 3.5. Like how do you I'm curious because it seems like based on this brief model, the entire like scale is based on user input, right? So there's got to be like a consistent user input to kind of gauge that. And then the second question is like, how do you deal with like, let's say, does is there an attrition rate for the data? So if I log in and I fill everything out at once, but I don't log in a month, are my responses equally like is there a weight of like someone who is using it every day, right? Is there like attrition or burn of my responses in the fact that like they're not super recent, so are they relevant to the platform like scope? Does that even matter, right? I'm just asking questions top of mind from seeing it.
Yeah, that's great, Ron. I want to be in relationship with you all about this. These are some of the most energizing conversations right now. So I want to share some. Oh yeah, go ahead, Taj.
Well, in response to that second part about the attrition, I would love to see something on there that says updated 3 days ago or updated today, something like that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Were you going to respond to that, Forrest, or were you saying going to say something more in general?
I
I was
apologize
Um,
for
no,
interrupting.
it's perfect, Taj. I'm really
oh
glad
no,
you
no, I mean, or just because I have some feedback too. But
go for it, Benji. Go
if it
for
was
it.
more in general, then I'd like to say something. But if it was specific, then I'd want to let you respond to it.
You go first.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. Um, yeah. So yeah, I guess I have two things. The the numbers I think are fairly like me. It's hard to say like universal, but like you can be like, oh, like 10 is better than 2. Um, but I mean, but I'm not even totally sure about that. But probably fairly universal. But the colors, are you saying like green is good and red is bad? Um, I guess kind of as a question. But like yeah, like maybe people have different associations with colors and like blue is their favorite color or something. So it doesn't mean sad. It means my like normal happy state is blue or something, as a possibility. And then the other question is, are there like messaging features or functionality, or is it more like someone's indicating that they'd like to be contacted or something, and then you have to figure out how to actually do it?
Yeah, so right now the colors are attached to numbers. So red is attached to 0, 1, and 2. Yellow's attached to 4 and 5. Blue's attached to 6 and 7. And green's attached to 8 through 10. But I totally hear you and agree on what you're saying. Like for somebody, they might be like, "Oh, when I'm at my best, I'm red," right? So I really appreciate that feedback. And I've been working on a version of a check-in where people can sort of create their own vibe, like the shape and the contour of their being with a color and a pulse and a vibration and a shape. I don't know if that's going to end up getting included or not, but I wonder if at some point we'll leave a sort of prepared color number system to more of a just express yourself system and let people make whatever meaning they make out of your art on their own. So it's in consideration. Yeah, Tosh.
I would love to see both, where you have the one where everybody's got red as the worst and green as the best is really good for grokking the whole, because if everybody chose a different color, you wouldn't know what it meant. So I think it's foregoing individuality for the collective in that particular case is good, but then you could also have, you know, something you could click on about Sam and find out what their more self-expressive check-in is.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. I love that. And then in terms of connection, that's a really great question. I'm wondering, are we going to build out an entire, messaging where to the point where you can hop into a video call with someone on the platform? Is it more just you can sync with each other and then coordinate how you connect with each other on your own? I'm in this question right now.
So I can jump in. Yeah, one of the things I really like that stands out is there's both you're linking the process for self-connection. Um, so of like kind of the check-in with, so me checking in with myself and how that becomes that can be part of like a record, like a kind of a assisted journaling, and I can see kind of potentially see trends, over time. Um, so linking that with also the kind of me sort of sharing where I'm at, with others. So the self connection then becomes a catalyst for connecting with others, connecting with the community and how I show up in the community. And then also potential for, uh, receiving support for others in communities or contributing to support, to others. So I'm appreciating that there's something really deep for me. That's something that I've also been thinking about and exploring specifically in the context of like community of practice. How is it that the practices that we do individually can be sort of quantified or represented to the community as a whole to provide a sort of like a weather report, so that the community itself can have an understanding or awareness of, you know, how the practice is being used, what kind of momentum do we have as a community. So all that, resonates for me, and I really like to see that. I also have a challenge for you, if you're ready for it, which is, thinking about it from like, so for me coming from like a tech, big tech and now like startup kind of perspective, the challenge is, how do you boil this down to an MVP? Like, what's the specific MVP? Like, what's the specific contribution or feature or set of features that then you're going to get a kind of critical mass of people participating and, getting value from this and so that's something, um, I'm hearing there's a lot of enthusiasm about like messaging and different directions you could go in. And then, the challenge, the nudge is to like, bring this down to like, what concretely would that look like? So I'm curious, if that's something that you're thinking about and what that might look like.
Yeah, challenge accepted. I'm with you wholeheartedly. As I mentioned, I've got another one of these that's more advanced, so that's kind of the place where all the creative stuff gets dumped. And then this one is the like, can I boil it down to the MVP of just the essential functionality that would get a critical mass of people actually going, hey, I'm getting a tremendous amount of value out of using this. So, challenge accepted. I don't claim to have done it yet, but we're working on it. Yeah, Tasha.
And maybe this is already in your other one, but something that Earl just said made me think it would be really cool to have a private versus public aspect of the journaling, so that you could use it as your personal journal and some of it is not shared on the platform. And then you have one place where you're going to and putting things. And then that leads me to the question of how the data gets used, but that's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is have, if you've ever used Venmo before, there's that little button in the bottom right that says public or private, and you can just choose whether or not money that you're sending on the platform is going to be showed on the news feed to others or not. I'm thinking about doing something just as simple as that, for whether it's a private journal entry or publicly available. What's happening for you, Roger?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about participation because, it's like anything that it is really reliant upon people using it to make it effective, make it meaningful. And I had a crazy thought too that tying it in with like a Fitbit type of thing where where you would be measured, in terms, I don't know how much people would get into that, putting that information out there. But I guess that would be one way of maintaining some kind of, connection. I don't know if you're planning to go in that direction with it, but I mean, they used to have something called a mood ring, which was
Mhm.
kind of a, silly thing, but it would tell people, it would basically, it was based on blood flow or, warmth or something like that, but it supposedly revealed moods. So I don't know whether, measurable, there's any kind of measurable way to make that jump, but that would be something that people wouldn't have to think about entering, and it would also be something that um they would probably, whether they're participating or not, they would be part of that network. And then I don't know, it's just a crazy thought at the top of my head. I don't know if that has any practical application, especially at this point. But there's no question that when people are under stress, if it shows up somehow, if that could be measured in some way, then other people could be aware of it. I don't know. Just as I said, I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now. So
I also really love the heart math coherence, heart brain coherence monitors. I think there's a lot of device plugins that could be really interesting to have in connection with this.
I wonder if there could be mini classes offered, like some kind of content that could allow people to like come for a 5 or 10 minute mindfulness or play or de-stressing little mini break, and then they get introduced to teachers they might want to follow and things like that.
Yeah, when we fantasize about the big vision, sometime out and hopefully a not too distant future, hopefully there would be basically 24/7, there would be some type of call you could jump into with community and be able to just be in a community loving space like this one, whether it's with a teacher or a connection call or something. So something we would love to have for sure.
My online painting community has a Zoom room that's open 24/7, and you can just show up and see who's there. And then there are scheduled events in that room as well.
I love it.
I would vote for being able to contact people directly, although obviously there's the need for moderating of that sometimes. But it'd be great to be able to invite certain people to something online or to, connect with someone directly who's across the world.
Can you bring me into that potential just a little bit more, Taj? Like, kind of create a story for me of what that might be like.
Let's say I see a post that somebody gives and I don't know them and I want to reach out and connect. If the platform makes it easy to do that, to find out more about what they're talking about or to reach out to offer support or whatever it might be.
And do you imagine you would want to do that on the platform itself, or you'd want to be redirected into like WhatsApp or Zoom?
Um, Probably whatever's easiest. So on the platform itself would be great to have that capability.
Thank you. I'm curious, Earl, when you speak about the MVP and the most essential functionality, do you have a sense of what that is? Yeah, that's the question. Do you have a sense of what that MVP essential functionality is for this?
Um, it's so what you're sharing is kind of new for me. I don't like, so I'm still kind of like collecting my thoughts. So I can't speak specifically to like the features that you've shown and how that might be kind of slimmed down even more. But I will say that um, it is a challenge getting a social network off the ground. And this is something that, in the startup world, people talk about, how difficult it is. Um, and so thinking about like, what are the ways of bootstrapping that? It's like the cold start problem. Like, what are the ways that people could be participating that doesn't depend upon having a critical mass of your friends, like also participating, you know? So those would be some of the things that come to mind for me. It's like, are the ways that people, like, well, now that we're talking about it, it could be something like, is there like the digital journaling or the check-ins that provides value to people? And then once you have a critical mass of people, doing that, then, opening up the community component and saying like, hey, like now, this is actually visible, you can, you can share your check-ins or share your current status with, other folks in your circles. So to do in phases that way potentially could be one way of going about that.
One of the
Are you
things,
are you kind of assuming or okay, or yeah, I'll just ask, are you assuming and requiring that everybody has kind of their entire like social network here? Or I mean, obviously not. I mean, it might just be like a few people, but is it the sense that that builds momentum?
my the thought process that I have right now is, I have about 400 people in mind personally around the world that I just care really deeply about. And I imagine some point in the next couple of months, the next like 8 or 9 weeks, I'm going to invite all those folks on a Zoom call and say, hey, you know, I've lived with you all, traveled with you all, cooked you food, had you cook food for me. Like we've had these life experiences together, but I don't always know how you're doing. And sometimes it's a year before we even catch in. So I would really appreciate it if you all would come on here and share how you are. Um, we can send out a push notification and an email every week asking for like a Sunday check-in, and there can be other ways to invite people in more often. But I feel like one of the really beautiful things from like, in startups, you have like growth hacking, right? Like, how are we gonna grow this thing? It's such a different energetic currency when it comes from care, because this is my concept. My story about this is that people are going to say, oh, I can reach out to the people who I love and who I care about and invite them on a platform where I can keep a pulse on how they are. And so it feels to me like this really grassroots mycelial kind of way of growing, which is that, I reach out to you, Earl, or you, Roger, and say, hey, I would love to know how you are. And then you might turn around to your mother, brother, sister, and your community and invite them in. Speaking of community, um, there is an argument to be made that reaching out to community leaders and community organizers is a really good way to grow this if we're bringing on communities at a time. One idea that we had for the U.S. is churches, actually, like, this is what churches allegedly are supposed to be doing, is keeping track of each other and taking care of each other and helping each other get support and things. So I feel like between the grassroots growth and then the community um, onboarding, those are the two orientations I have right now. But I'm definitely open to more ideas. It doesn't feel to me like the way we're going to grow this is running a ton of social media ads uh, kind of way. I imagine we'll do some of that also, but that feels like, you know, this is all built in network, in community, in relationships. So the relationships themselves growing the platform feels to me like the congruent way, as opposed to just getting a bunch of sporadic users that aren't already interconnected and trying to connect them on the platform.
Yeah, I've been part of a group called Weave for the past 5 years or so. And at one point, it had like about 2,000 members. And then they went to a new platform and got wiped out. And now they're starting over, and now they're up to a couple hundred, I think, maybe about almost 1,000. But it's an organization, and it's mostly online, although they're trying to promote local groups as well. That's all about weaving. What the concept is that bringing people together and having them interact more. So it sounds like the kind of organization that would be very interested in what you're doing.
So
Um, and I know there's some other people. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, but has this thing where he tracks people's interests. So if you go to a group, and you have like you're interested in some specific kind of hobby, the people in that group will show up as having that interest. And so if you go to a party or you're just at some kind of public event, you can actually find people who are connected. Um, you can connect with them through these different interest areas, which is, I guess, another thing. Although as I said, he's working on that right now. And he came to Weave and he was trying to promote it through Weave. And Weave it's not, Weave doesn't want people to come in promoting businesses per se, but they do welcome people who are working towards connecting people. So it's not that they would be there promoting it as a business, but they would be there making people aware of it so that they could become part of it. And so I guess that's the way I would sum that up. So it's not, so you wouldn't go to them and say, yeah, I've got this great thing and I want to sell this to you and or I want you to invest in it or something like that. But they would give you the opportunity to mention it, that you're working on it. And if anyone's interested, they would connect with it. I'll tell you what, I'll put their address in chat so you can take a look at their organization, and then you can see whether it's something that might be a good fit or not. Let me just pull that up.
Thanks, Roger.
I also thought of ecstatic dance when I was in Portland. That was my main community, was the dance community. And that would be a group that might very much, in especially West Coast, but I think other places too, be a good fit.
Hmm.
I'll chime in with another inquiry. Faris, how are you planning to make this platform sustainable? So you said you want to reach out to churches. Are you going to ask them to pay for it? Or is it something you're just funding out of the good of your heart? It doesn't seem like there's a tremendous amount of overhead, but obviously you have server costs, right? I imagine, Cloudflare or whatever. So what is your vision for what this surface might be? Um, Speaking from like a similar experience, kind of launching a new product, are you doing a more of a freemium model, which is like just get users on for free and then figure it out after, or do you have a vision in mind? Have you polled anyone on like what they might be willing to contribute to this type of platform? I'm just curious how you're thinking of moving your effort forward.
Yeah, beautiful question. A couple of thoughts. Right now, I'm thinking about um, doing a membership subscription, essentially, where you can either pay $10 a month or $30 a year. So massive discount if you're paying for the year. In this moment, I really don't want to have ads and that whole thing. because the consciousness is different. The point of this is not an attention based platform like Facebook or Instagram is. I'm not trying to get people on here and keep them on here all day. It's a different value proposition. So either a membership subscription and or long term, if there start being transactions on the platform, there's a possibility for payment processor revenues from the Ask Offers marketplace as a revenue model. And as mentioned, there's community and courses and teachings and tools. So there could be kind of a, as you said, a freemium model where you pay and then pay for deeper dives into the platform. But yeah, those are some of the different options. If you have ideas beyond that, I'd love to hear them. Those are just some that I've come up with.
Well, I think that it may be a challenge to get a lot of individuals on, paying that much before they have a sense of where it's going and how it can be, how it's going to help them. But I think if you approach organizations like churches or other types of organizations and offer them a cost for all of their members to join, you already have a group of people who are connected and who would be interested in actually having this kind of extended connection through this type of process. I think it would be much easier if you got those organizations and you're able to pitch to them and say, this is really going to help keep people within your group connected. It's going to have a tremendous benefit for them. And it might be easier to sell it rather than try to sell it individually.
Yeah, the only chime I would make is given where you're kind of in your infancy, it would probably make more sense to find a church or two or whoever to just do it for free. Like see if it works. Can we prove a use case and just be open to it? We're taking a very similar approach to Spirit Out. As I'm on this meeting, I'm emailing nonprofits and organizing activist organizations within like a 15-mile radius where I live, with the intent of just being like, we have a free infrastructure. We're looking for pilot communities. Is something you'd be interested in? And obviously doing a little bit of research, but I think it's going to be, this is kind of like a vibe tool. So it's going to be difficult to quantify a financial, amount that seems correct without genuinely understanding, like, what does it look like when an actual community is on it? Are people using it? Are they not? Does it have the appropriate calls to action? How deep do you want to lean into calls to action? Or are you building like an attention extractive device, or is it like a monthly check-in where it's more of a casual thing? These are all things that I think will, having a user community will kind of shed light on. So I think, in my opinion, your idea would be like, I was just curious about the pricing model, so I kind of brought this up. So I don't mean to like contradict my own my own exploration, but I think really, your ideal, if you have a target, you have your identified target market, do some research out to them and see if they'd be open to exploring it with their community, but at no cost. I wouldn't even mention price. It would just be free for them, because you need some. In order to determine a price and make a true like value pitch, I think you're going to need some context around like, how does it actually get used when people are using it, right? Because obviously, as a builder, you're going to have your own expectations, but then when you give it to people, it's going to be, likely divergent.
Thanks, Ron. Welcome, Chris. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, to build on what Ron was saying, one of the things that comes to mind for me is, thinking about whether like this functionality is it a nice to have or a must have? Is it like vitamins or painkillers? It's something where it's like people will like kind of remember to do it periodically, or something that they must do. There's like an urgency, like with a painkiller, you know. And often like for consumers, there's a wide range of interests. For businesses, it's often really focused on like something existential or specifically around like the bottom line. And like for like churches, it'd be kind of been thinking about like what are the kind of existential challenges that they're facing.
Yeah, I think that you need to allow people to use it for free no matter what. Um, to some amount, like the real like the hard part and the real value is the network of people using it. So like paywalling access at all, I think is not like viable. Like at this point, like Facebook's free to use, Instagram's free to use. Um, but that yeah, something like a church would like selling something to them as like organization features or like kind of those like add-ons that are valuable and um you know maybe more likely to pay at like the organization level than the individual subscription level to that concept. I also want to add that like kind of what Taj was bringing up earlier about the like privacy levels and access. Like I think that's very important and like should be built in. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be really from the start. I mean, it could be like, oh, just everything's public, but that it's like you have your personal notes, you have stuff that you only want to share with certain people, and then you have stuff that's totally public. Um, so like making it really clear like the levels of access and but then also like on the database side, like, like where are you storing all this stuff? As well is going to be important if people are sharing like, personal information like that. Some amount of people like won't want to use it unless that's clear. Like how it's being stored, how it's being used. So like I think that upfront, like in terms of the MVP idea, I think that would be good to have like earlier than keeping it more vague.
Agreed. Thanks, Benji.
Yeah, I was wondering whether there would be what kind of notifications would be involved so that, if changes are made or notifications sent out to remind people that, hey, this thing exists. But then I realized that if you had a lot of people on that, you might be getting little notifications pinging you constantly, and that could be a problem. So you might have people who want to just keep the notifications to a certain group, rather than have, everybody sending notifications. I mean, if you had 400 people on there, and they're all changing their status at that moment, you'd just be getting flooded with notifications. But if you had like a circle that you were concerned with, I don't know whether how that would all work, but the thing is that, out of sight, out of mind, and I've tried to do like try to create online communities. I tried to create something that was kind of similar to Facebook without the ads and the algorithms and all that. And first, I had trouble getting people to sign on, but once I did get them to sign on, I had trouble getting them to use it. And the only way that they're going to know or even remember to use it is if somehow or other they're notified in some way, even periodically. I mean, you could, that's all I'm saying is that you have to remind people because there's so many distractions out there and there's so many other platforms, that this is something that they would have to get into the habit of using for it to really work, I think.
I'm curious for you, Forrest, hearing um, the perceptions, hearing the response and the feedback from, from me, from other folks. How's that influencing what you'll be doing next?
Well, I imagine immediately coming off this call, I have to run. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate you. Um, I imagine coming off this call, I'm just going to, transcribe and watch back this recording and there's like 19 uh, bold topics here, everything from notifications to database security, to public-private sharing. Like it's like here, it's almost like a product roadmap, here's all the things that need to be considered right now. So that's my strongest impulse. I just feel like there's a collective harvest of what matters most in relationship to the pulse right now, which I'm deeply, deeply grateful for. Feels like it just gets everything out on the table.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's good.
Yeah. Oh, just to throw in there, yeah, like Roger, what you're saying about notifications. So, like, that makes me think of like an app, like an iOS, Android app that does push notifications, possibly. But like, yeah, that question of technology, like, will this always be a website? Will it be an app?
Yes.
I think I agree that notifying people is good. Yeah, like an email service that's connected to it, maybe reminding people of it that way. Um, I had some other quick things, but that's what comes to mind first. Like on the product roadmap kind of idea.
Yeah, I was just going to ask whether you, speaking of notifications, would you want to keep us in the loop and keep us notified with the progress?
Absolutely.
Do you want email address or anything at this point?
I would love that. If you put your email address in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. And I'll
Sure.
also put a link to, if you all have Signal, I've created a uh, support for the Pulse group. Uh, so I'll just drop a link for that here. And yes, I'd love to get your emails. Um, if you have Signal, you can join this group. And I will also well, I got your email, Roger. I know I've got Earl's contact. Benji, if you want to share yours, I'll keep it somewhere.
I just joined the Signal group.
Oh, beautiful.
Um, so yeah.
Welcome, Benji.
Let's see. Yeah.
Earl, I feel like your question had a little bit of a deeper invitation in it. Is that true? Or do you feel like the answer I gave was, I felt like you were pointing to something beyond my answer. Is that true?
For me, it was yeah, thanks. Uh, for me, it was something like curious about like I got the sense that you were taking this in, but then curious about like what you were doing with it, like or what you may do with it. You know, how this might it sounds like you came in with a certain trajectory, and then curious about like what the new trajectory will be. Um, yeah, I would caution you about product roadmap. You know, I mean, you know, um, in terms of I mean, even generally, like one of the challenges is like you share something like this with people, and you know, you hear like a lot of different, you know, version 2, version 3, version 10 features, and it can be a lot, you know, when version 1 isn't out yet, you know.
Yeah, there's version 1 and version later.
Yeah, yeah. I'm dealing that with myself, you know. I think I've shared some about kind of my own startup journey, um, and just noticing like just you know, I mean, I think Steve Jobs had a quote. that for every time they say yes to a new feature, they say no to 100 features. That there's just that constant coming back to, being really strategic. What comes up for you hearing me say that?
Just agree deeply. I mean, to me, it feels like this whole app exists to help people get to what's most essential in life and in connection. And I feel like the invitation you're giving is to be in contact with what's most essential for the app to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Forrest, you said that like what you showed us today is different than another thing that you're working on. Is it like the same concept or
It's
something
this,
else?
it's the same exact thing, but sometimes like when I hear an idea that would be nice for the future, I throw it in that later version. I don't put it in the MVP version. Um, so I have a second one where, for example, there's a intelligence tab where you can get some really cool insights on reciprocity and whether or not you've been asking as much as you've been offering and your own personal well-being insights and things like that. And I love that. I think it's so cool and I'm excited to have it. And it doesn't feel like it's needed for the MVP. So I put it in the version later uh, one. So that's what I meant is I just have a version later one where some cool ideas get thrown as like they might get included later. For now, they get to live in that one.
Totally. Yeah, I think the other thing that was on my mind, and it's probably like a later idea, possibly. I mean, or it could be kind of structural too, but um is like when we were all talking about like advertising on Facebook to or like yeah, talking to the churches, like how are people gonna get on it? Um about it's like you're connecting with people that you already know, to stay in touch, but like what is like kind of as a question, like the discoverability features or like connecting with people that you don't know or meeting people. Um, and there was kind of like that idea brought up about like events almost or like check-in kind of stuff. Like maybe that would be a way people who don't already know each other could connect, but like how that will actually work, like a closed system versus like discoverability or something. So.
Do any ideas come to you in that possibility?
Oh, well, the very first thing that comes to mind for me is like Facebook has that like suggested friends feature. So it's people you're not already connected to, but I guess like in the social graph that they're like one node away. Um, if you have that, kind of model built out of how all the connections are. Um, I think the events are a good thing. I mean, that's kind of like Limicon, I guess, as well, like or that kind of idea. But that um yeah, I mean, kind of on that MVP idea about like not having like video conferencing within this product. That people have profiles and like maybe in their profile they would, or if they have profiles that like they would have like here's how to contact me kind of stuff um that would, or I guess, I mean, uh, that wouldn't help with finding each other, though. I mean, I guess, I mean, there's like groups as well, like, oh, we're, you have like a public listing of groups, and it's like, oh, we're the people who are interested in, like playfulness or technology or something. And so then people could kind of meet as strangers, but self-organize around interests. That could be a thing as well. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like already bootstrapped, I guess you could say, when it's like you're presenting this to a church and they've got their whole group and it's like, okay, onboard everybody. Um, so it's like kind of like two different directions, but I mean, you could still do both. Um, but the user experience is different. I guess maybe there's more to do if it's like so-called, I mean, random in the sense that like disconnected people joining this thing versus it's like, the digital equivalent, I guess, of like a real in-person social network. So, um, yeah, maybe like the AI could summarize that in general, and like some conclusions could be drawn from it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to jump off. I have something else coming up soon. So, but this is very interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it as it develops. So, I did join the Signal group, and you have my email. So, as things go along, I'm hoping to hear more about it and to see if there's any kind of application that I might be able to use of this. So,
Beautiful.
thanks. Let's stay in touch.
Thanks, Roger. Great to meet you. Look forward to being
Good
in
meeting you too. See you.
touch. Bye.
Yeah, so thinking back on the session, I'm appreciating kind of getting a window into um, the contribution that you're wanting to make, sort of the motivation for you in terms of staying connected to the folks in your community, and wanting to get the sense of kind of how folks are doing within your community, this network that you have, and then to support people in their own self connection, and how that can be this kind of virtual cycle. Um, and so within this session, it's been helpful to see kind of where you're coming from with that, this project that's kind of manifesting, that you're creating, with that. Um, Generally, it sounds like you've been interested in my sense in terms of like the way that you approach this session is kind of sharing this and opening it, welcoming input, and feedback from folks. Um, I'm also happy to have like a separate conversation that would be like potentially like much more sort of frank or critical, if that's something that you're interested in. But I didn't want to harsh the vibe of this session. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to do that now or some other time, based on kind of, like I said, my experience in tech, um, and what that might look like.
I just want to say I would love to do that. Maybe we could turn the recording off and like get more critical.
Yeah, I'm fine doing it with the recording on,
Oh,
as
okay.
long, well, yeah,
Yeah, me too.
but it's up to you, like what you're wanting first. If you're wanting kind of support and reassurance, or if you're wanting kind of, um, yeah, frankness.
Both. I feel like I've gotten lots of support and reassurance, and I'm open for frankness and
All
criticism.
right. Yeah, I'll put it to you this way. Um, if you went to a VC, any VC would tell you, like VCs often get proposals for social networks, or like they used to. I think they've died down, but it's the thing where they would say like, don't do it. It's extremely, I mean, it's hard mode. It's extra hard mode, because of the challenge, um, and you see this. I mean, blog posts, podcasts. I mean, the Y Combinator folks are constantly telling people not to create a social network, and constant like, you look at Reddit discussion threads, people are like, I have this idea for social network, I have this idea for a feature that Facebook is missing or Instagram is missing, and just reminders about just how challenging it is. Uh, I want to pause because you might be different, certainly, but it really is, it can be really challenging. And I can speak from my own perspective, which is anytime somebody's telling me to download a new app, to keep in touch, I have zero interest. I don't enjoy, uh, keeping in touch with people virtually. It's like I really kind of prioritize like the face to face where I feel like I get energy. So I have no interest in downloading another app. I realize you're not proposing an app, but like a website, but it is the challenge I think that came up just a few minutes ago of like what would motivate people to kind of come back to. And so for me, it's like it would take a lot. I wouldn't be an early adopter. It would take a lot, for me to sort of shift my own habits, um, to be using something like this regularly, just to speak frankly. And it's not to be kind of critical. It could be like an amazing idea, or it could be, for different folks, it could really resonate. But that's kind of, what I'm saying. So I'm naming two things, which is the conventional wisdom of the challenge of the social network. And then for me personally, like I'm already kind of overwhelmed with Signal and WhatsApp and, various like notifications and, kind of communities that I am ambivalent about anyway, you know. So I want to pause because I'm curious, like how it is to hear those two things. What comes up for you? Or like what are you hearing me say actually? Just, from the outset.
Well, I've heard a lot of the same things you have from folks about social networks
Mhm.
for a long time. This is kind of
Yeah.
this isn't like this year. This has happened. It's many years that people have been saying don't start social networks. So um,
Hmm.
yeah, and I also really resonate with what you're saying about how many WhatsApps and signals and things, telegrams that I get. It's overwhelming. It's just too many notifications. I don't know, 20 iMessages that I haven't read. I have 70 WhatsApps I haven't read. Like it just seems to be impossible to keep up. Um, so very well received would be my initial feedback. Well received.
Oh, wait, you got cut off. What was that?
I just said well received is my
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, it lands well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say also, from the event description you had here for this session, I was thinking it was going to be something like as a feature also is like, and I've seen it in the past, like someone made an app before for this, of like you enter in the people that you want to stay connected with, and the app reminds you to contact them if you've forgotten to or
Hmm.
something. I forget what it was called. I mean, it probably didn't work out. But so yeah, that's how it sounded at first. I mean, yeah, this general idea about like app fatigue or messenger fatigue. I mean, it is kind of like, well, what do we do with that? Like, do we stop trying to do things? I mean, or I hear that about like, don't try to do a social network. I mean, that, and yeah, that has been a thing for a while. Like maybe the emphasis is more on like this is a utility. So the people who would use it would be like, oh, this is a utilitarian purpose that is not being met. That like, and that would be the reason to like give it a try. And then if it actually is enjoyable, then you keep doing it. Versus like, oh, I'm creating a network or like I'm creating a platform, and people, would be or not that they would feel obligated, but like, I mean, if they do, then it's like, well, it's just not going to work. Um, so yeah, more like the Notes app, on a phone or something. Like you're using it for a specific purpose, and that there's like the intrinsic motivation. Um, what do you think about that, Earl? I guess.
Oh, what in particular? You were talking about the
I
Notes
mean,
app, or
kind of the reframing of like versus a social network, more utility.
oh yeah, yeah. That I kind of yeah. That's so like before. It's like thinking about somebody mentioned like Fitbit. More of this kind of quantified self that potentially adding in the social layer. Afterward, once you have like a critical mass of folks where they are getting a benefit from it. But it sounds like I think Forrest, your response was that you actually saw the social layer as like kind of intrinsic and fundamental. So you wouldn't want to like that would be like part like an essential part of version one, essential part of the MVP. Is that right?
Well, it's really interesting because what happens for me is I go, what do we mean when we say a social network? And I've jokingly called this "Get Your Ass Off the Couch" app because it's like for me, I don't I don't envision myself sitting there's no doom scrolling here, right? There's not reels, there's not people's posts. People aren't posting all their thoughts about things in life. Like there is content technically, but it's not content in the way that you have on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or any of these kinds of places. Like for me, you come in here, you check in, you see how people are doing, but you're quickly either getting into connection with someone or creating an offer or seeing an ask and engaging with it. Like I jokingly call it a get your ass off the couch app because it's like it gets you in connection with other people. So um, there's something there that feels really important about, I feel like the social network is the priority, is the socialization's happening on the network. But this one, it's actually facilitating off network connection.
Yeah, I think this is really helpful because it's getting clarity around kind of basically like your vision and mission. Um, and for me, so just to sort of make a guess, it's something like your vision is that what I'm hearing you say is something like when people have noticed that they have capacity during the day to connect with others in their community, that they can load this and see like where is there the kind of need for support, or like what are these sort of specific tangible opportunities to channel that energy to contribute to the community of the people that are important for them. And so rather than having this kind of vague like goodwill of like, oh, I should reconnect with folks, it's like, oh, I have a few minutes now. I can kind of follow up with this person who is bothered, or I can catch up with this person and maybe you have like, kind of like what was discussed earlier. It's like, oh, you haven't talked to this person in a few weeks or months or whatever, reconnect with them.
Or
Um,
they've marked themselves as red.
yeah, exactly. So like maybe like high need.
Right.
Um, so I think, yeah, and it makes sense what you're saying in terms of it's not a conventional social network based on content. It's more specifically about this catalyst or facilitating these moments of contact between people, between you and the people who are close to you and the people that you want to remain close to. Is that right?
It is. It is. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the way I envision it is there would be, for example, there's a section on there that says pinned. So I imagine the people who I have pinned, I would want to get notifications from them based on how they're doing, but I wouldn't want that for my whole network, right? Like I don't want notifications every time anybody puts up a status update. Um, and I also just want to speak to the different dynamics. Like it is possible that I would come on, let's say I'm in green, I'm in an 8. I might come on and see someone's in red, and I might go, oh, I feel like an impulse to reach out to this person and offer support. Or I might come on and go, I see that that's happening, and right now I feel like I want to connect with Earl or Benji, who's in green, and do some creative kind of thing. So there's different dynamics that are possible based on what we feel available.
Totally. Yeah, different motivations or reasons to connect. I'm thinking my current thought right now is like from the demo that you showed us, like I wonder almost if it's already doing too much, like paring back as much as possible to the essential functions that with the goal being like kind of how like they talk about like with dating apps, like it seems like the goal would actually be to like not use the apps because they work. But so the incentive is for them to like not actually work, so you keep using the app. Like the goal would be to use this app as little as possible because it's facilitating connections, and then you're off it and you're just connecting with people.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
I haven't explicitly, or sorry, you weren't done. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, yeah, there's maybe something else there too, but just that, yeah, it'd be like an efficient way to connect with people for a specific reason that like or what you're interested in. Uh, and I guess also to share like needs for that side of the slider. Um, it'll come back to me, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't said this explicitly, but we've kind of talked all around it on this call, which is like, there's your personal well-being here where you come in the app, and one of the big benefits for me is like getting a mirror of my current state and where I'm at in the moment. So there's my own personal support of being able to see how I'm doing and maybe like, oh yeah, I haven't had electrolytes today. Like that would probably be wise. So just my own personal well-being. Then there's relational well-being. I would say there's personal well-being, there's other well-being, there's relational well-being. So the quality of our relationships can actually get better facilitated by this app. And then there's community and even network level well-being, which is the idea is that through using this, our communities get healthier and then the entire platform gets healthier. And so we grow stronger, more able, more capable, healthier, more vibrant, fulfilled uh, people and humanity as a consequence of using it. Like that's the mission. That's the goal of what we're doing here.
It, like 3 levels, 3 layers.
I do share a sense that there's a way that there can be even a little bit more fat trimmed out of this to get a more essential MVP. I agree. I feel like Earl, I don't know if you're saying that. I get the feeling you're saying that, but I definitely agree with you, Benji, that that's the case. It can get even more potent.
Yeah, or just going back to like, I mean, I gave you kind of what I was hearing is in terms of your vision. Going back to like what's the sort of what what is the core of it? And that might mean like another kind of iteration. It's like writing a book. Each chapter might go through many, drafts. Um, yeah.
I'm thinking about Ken Wilber for some because like the three there's a fourth one, but I don't know what it is exactly. But of the
Mhm.
relating to yourself, relating to others, like internal, external, something.
Yeah.
I know he has a fourth quadrant.
Yeah, it's your internal and your external of your I, and then the internal and external of the we, which is culture and systems, culture and technology.
So like the journaling and like quantified self stuff is external I,
Uh,
or journaling would be like your
External.
internal state, but your like have you eaten is external, maybe.
That sounds right to me.
I mean, if it kind of goes in that, aesthetic direction, maybe like integral people would be more interested in trying out the app or the website or something. Um,
Or we could just get Ken Wilber to use it, and then they'd all want to try.
yeah, right.
And then how big is the integral market? You know?
Yeah. I have a feeling we're
Yeah.
going to do a lot better with churches, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, so that's, yeah. My sense is that the folks who are most successful at selling to like churches, the people who have been like already, involved in leadership positions. So it's something to think about. And potentially it could be worthwhile to do informational interviews, with folks who have been like in leadership positions in churches, or are successfully selling, like maybe IT systems or other kinds of offerings to churches. You take a sigh. What comes up for you?
In the moment I took the sigh, I was thinking of a church that I know of and wondering if I could have a conversation with them and ask them.
Yeah. 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 There's a great book, The Mom Test, about how to go about having these kinds of conversations. Because the thing that often people will do, like technologists or founders, they'll go to their mom and the mom's like, yeah, I love it because you made it. And it's like, that's not the kind of conversation that you want to be having, So it's like how to actually guide people to giving you kind of a more helpful information.
Out of everything that you all have seen on this, what piece of functionality would you be most engaged with? What would be what's most interesting to you about this platform?
For me, I'd say it's less about the functionality and it goes back to the core motivation. This question around how to remain connected to the community,
Yeah.
and even like these layers of community. How to remain connected, how to contribute, how to receive, how to give, and how to receive, um, as just the sort of core motivating principle, less less like the particular implementation.
Yeah.
The implementation is great. Uh, um, yeah, and but it's more generally, it's like I'm inspired by that just because I see like in my own life and in the lives of the people around me how much suffering is coming up because people feel disconnected from community. You know, I mean, it's tragic, and I think that's also what's driving a lot of the social media addiction and other addictions and quality of life issues that people are experiencing because they're not really embedded within community. So for you to take this on, of like, what does it look like to kind of re-envision community in a digital context, and how we contribute and receive from community, I think is really inspiring. But then, yeah, thinking about different ways, different sort of permutations or combinations of features and experiences to kind of embody that is, you know, there's a lot to it. How was that to hear?
Awesome. Really, really great. It also makes me curious if you got all your critique and criticism out or if there's more. And if there is, we'd also don't have to do that now. We can have another call, but I just am curious if there's more.
Yeah, one is just I mean, just really briefly from an accessibility perspective, 6% of men are colorblind, like red-green colorblind. So they'll see red and green, it both appears gray.
Ah,
So just noticing that that's something that, a chunk of the audience won't be, won't, a visual channel that won't work for them.
very helpful. Very helpful. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I'll put a link. Like if you tell Claude like, oh, follow the WCHE guidelines for colorblindness. I think I only have a compliment still to give. Yeah, well, there could be more criticism too. I mean, but like, I mean, that's more like design stuff, I guess. But the compliment is that, or just note is, yeah, I'm thinking of like comparing this to Nextdoor and Nextdoor being more organized around posts, and someone will be like, I need help with this, or like, oh, I have, this free stuff to give out. So it's organized around posts. I like that your idea is organized around people instead. So if it's like if I'm, it's like 11 a.m. or something, and I want to connect with my community, I can go on this and be like, who's available, or like, or who's available maybe in the green creative sense or the like struggling, I can maybe support them kind of sense. And so I think that's a new idea. I don't think that's really common in social networks. It's usually like, oh, here's the feed, and also people are more active when they're like advertising themselves or something versus like, here's my entire network, it's all the people, and then these are all their statuses. I think it's a cool idea, like a cool organization um that yeah, it doesn't exist already. So yeah, it's exciting in that sense.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you guys. I know we're coming up on time here in just a moment. If there's anything else you want to share, please feel free. I just want to express the depth of gratitude I have for you guys coming on here and taking this in and sharing your input and feedback and encouragement and criticism. It's um, quite literally essential for this to succeed. So I'm just feeling a lot of appreciation for both of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing this.
Totally. Yeah. I'll like to see how it continues to develop. So um yeah, good luck with it, Forrest.
Yeah, thanks all. I'm gonna drop. All right, take care.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Be well.
You too. You too.